So bringing it full circle here, when I was growing up, I had a very difficult household, man. I had parents that were very dismissive. We were more just kind of a pain than anything else. It was tough. My dad was really tough, and there wasn't a lot of intimacy or connection. And I'm not even sure how I had this awareness at 6 or 7 years old, but I knew that you had to have a certain amount of money if you wanted to go to the airport and buy a ticket that day and leave somewhere, that it was going to be way more expensive than if you did it in advance.
Yeah.
And I remember even at like 7 years old, just wanting to escape my family. So
And you're not talking about like every 7, 8-year-old kid that takes their little suitcase and walks to the end of the road and then changes their mind and walks back. You're talking about intentionally planning to leave.
Yes.
And so you needed enough money to buy a plane ticket and get out of there.
Yes. So that had always been my goal. I just want enough money, and I don't even know what that was. If you would have told me back then it was $75, then I would have gone, okay,
yeah,
that's $75. But I knew I wanted enough money to be able to go to the airport and leave and escape where I was. And that is really the only time that money had ever driven me. But I think I kept that mentality my entire life. And
you've just changed the goalpost.
Yeah, I really like my family now. I'd like to hang with them, and if I'm going to take a flight, they're invited.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've changed the goalpost of what the goal is. So instead of pain pushing you to get that $75 or whatever, it's more inspiration that, hey, I'd like to be able to take my family to this vacation whenever I feel like it, and that's going to cost me X dollars, so I need to have that disposable income.
Yes. And look, my vacations are my gold bars. So I work to provide for my family, and I work for vacations.
Okay.
Watches don't mean anything to me. Cars don't mean anything. Clearly, clothes don't mean anything to me. But that's really it. And that is sort of my driving force. I want to be creative, and I want freedom. And I think working as hard as I have has given me the freedom that I want to do those vacations and be able to provide in a really, really solid way for my family.
So I do want to get deeper into your mind on this, because it's such a foreign concept to me that someone who owns a business doesn't think about money intentionally.
Right.
I seriously, like, I almost don't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how detached I am from, I guess, reality.
Or I'm detached from reality. One of us is.
No, I think you're normal. I'm the weird one. I mean, you use your passion for what you do to drive you to the financial goal. I used my financial goal to drive me to my passion.
Totally.
But we
opposite.
both ended in the same place,
Right.
which is we do what we love and we enjoy it, and we make a lot of money at it. But to your point about cars and watches and stuff, there are only two things I spend money on.
And those are the two?
Cars
Did I nail
and
it?
watches. Right.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because here's the reason first why I like cars. Well, we grew up in a mechanic shop. My first workplace injury was when I was 8 years old. I had a used tire explode in my face. And I remember we had this mechanic that was working on a customer's car, came in. This was at Murray Avenue in Dalton, Georgia. We rented out a little tire shop and a mechanic shop to be able to just have a business for my family. And the reason we started that business was because my dad had a town and country minivan that had the transmission go out not once but twice. And every time they charged him $1,500. And when you're talking about $1,500 for immigrant parents that don't have U.S. citizenship, that have 5 kids sitting in a 2,000 square foot pad trying to figure out how to get things going, that's very painful.
Yeah, man.
To the point where he's like, I never want to be in this position again, and I want to own my own mechanic shop. So guess what? We grew up in a mechanic shop. That's what it was. And I distinctly remember when I was like 8 years old, we had a mechanic that was working on this Ford Mustang convertible. And this was in December time. And once it was typical. Once you finish a car, it's normal to go and take it for a test drive. And I was like, 8 years old. I was like, are you going on a test drive? He's like, yep. I'm like, all right, can I come in? He's like, well, there's already someone in the passenger seat. I'm like, it's okay, I'll sit in the back. This was like 30 degrees outside. I'm like, can we put the convertible top down? And this first memory of driving in a convertible when I was 8 years old has pushed me to making sure I always have a convertible. And they've just kind of upgraded over the years. Even on the way here, I drove with my convertible top down. My hair looks crazy right now underneath all of this.
So that one I shared with you. Yeah. Soft tops for the last 20 years for me. Yes.
Convertibles for sure. Like I can't have a fast car, an exotic car that's not a convertible. I don't appreciate it. I don't care about the speed as much as I enjoy the wind in my hair, in my face, right? Now, with watches, there was a guy that, so my dad got his master's degree from Georgia Tech in 3 years, like in 1980. And he used that degree to work at a bunch of different carpet mills, and he became like a very sought after engineer because he's just very, very smart. Like my dad is extremely sharp. If you ever think like, wow, you just said something smart, it's like, for sure got it from my dad. So he got a master's degree, and in engineering, the PhD is the terminal degree. So there was a guy in the PE, the professional engineer sort of like status, is what is the highest degree that you can get in engineering. So my dad was one of the most knowledgeable people as engineer, but he didn't have the license that went along with it to make these sort of decisions like, I'm going to go ahead and build this project, or I'm going to construct this dam or this retaining wall or whatever it is. So he'd always have this PE, this professional engineer, that would have to sign off on all the work that my dad did. And my dad was a superior engineer, but that guy had the licensure. And this was sort of the interesting juxtaposition between super skilled, doesn't have the qualifications on paper, not very skilled, has the qualifications on paper. Guess who wins in America, right? And so that guy had a Rolex. And
that thing was just shiny and blinging. It was singing to you.
I felt like he didn't deserve it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, if this guy has it and I don't have one and my dad doesn't have one, then you best believe I'm going to get one and I'm going to get my dad one. And I'm happy to say that I've done both.
Beautiful.
But even for both of these things, for cars and watches, I don't buy retail. Everything that I buy, I have an exit strategy for it so that at least I break even or make money on the exit. And so that way my hobbies become investments. So I spent a lot of time really studying the watch market. I'm very in tune with like Rolex, AP, Patek pricing. And that's kind of how I'm known among some of my peers, attorneys, like, hey, you need a watch, like Ali's the dude. Because I really enjoy the horology. But for cars, I go to this car show like one Sunday every month. And that's where I kind of get my fix to be around cars. So those two things have some sort of like innate childhood memory that's attached to it. But I don't really spend money on other things. Like I don't see the enjoyment of just spending money for the sake of spending.
Me neither.